Okay, we have another one here about relationships or about men and women. I received a lot of emails after video number, I think it was 87. What is the purpose of being a human on Earth? And all the emails were saying, what am I doing talking about relationships and about men and women and about how to get a man or how to keep a man, when I can talk more about things that were mentioned in video number, I think it was 087. You know what? Information like that is very nice, but it's not our job to be super esoteric, because that is not where most of humanity is stuck at the moment. We are at the verge, at the doorstep of our next evolutionary leap in consciousness. And most of humanity is still looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And this is why I do talk a lot about relationships. To assist people in understanding that there is another way as well. That relationships is not the only way. So they can get unstuck from this and then perhaps look into the more esoteric or the more spiritual. So yes, we're going to do another one about men and women. This person, I think it's a lady. Yes, it is a lady. She's writing, "You have said that men don't care and they are not nurturers, and that we as women should accept this fact in order to find peace. However, it's not true that men are not nurturers. We see that most men can be extremely nurturing to their pets, especially their dogs, to their cars, and to their businesses. Men treat all of the above as if they are their babies. So why won't they also nurture their women?" Okay, first of all, women do not need nurturing. They are not babies. Okay, but let's start with, so why won't they also nurture their women? Look, because I do not have a logical answer for you, I'm going to take this somewhere else. There is a reason why for hundreds, if not thousands of years, our parents used to marry us off. Our parents would make the arrangements of who we are going to marry, simply because we would not do it ourselves. We ourselves could not find what we liked, because no other person has all the things we like. We need to understand that marriage is unnatural. This is why we have to sign a piece of paper with the government. If it were natural, this would not be necessary. Long-term relationships are the most unnatural thing mankind has forced upon themselves. And this is why they're not working. They are not natural. And nowadays, because we are going into what we call the fifth dimension, and among the many definitions of the fifth dimension, one of them is individuality. We are becoming more and more of an individual, and we won't settle for just anyone. We just don't. Unless, of course, we have needs. There are plenty of men out there that need a mother, and they would like to get married. But of course, you do not want these men. You have to be a major loser to want to keep one of these men. And because you are not a major loser, you cannot find a man that wants you and just you. That would be a needy man. But you see, with all that you have now, with all that you know now, and with all that you have discovered about yourself now, what on earth would you want a needy man for? You want a man that's not needy, a man that's not looking to be taken care of, a man that is not looking for a babysitter. But the thing is, those kinds of independent men don't need you. They don't need anybody, because they have everything they want. So I'm afraid all this relationship and all this marriage stuff, yes, I keep talking about how to keep a partner, because that's what you want to hear. But in a few years, every single individual on the planet will be single. I read an article the other day. In China alone, there is almost 250 million young single adults. And family is still quite strong in China. And yet these people cannot find a partner. It's not that they cannot find the right person, because we know there is no such thing as the right person. But they cannot find someone that they are willing to settle with, because they don't want to settle. They've become independent and they don't have needs. They have jobs, they make their money, so why should they settle? See, you have to have needs to settle with someone. Now, let's not confuse this with the people who, we've mentioned this before, they just met, their hormones are running wild, they cannot have enough of each other, they want to literally eat each other up. That's not a relationship. That is just sex. But you see, you want more. And it's this more that is unnatural. Families were necessary when we lived in the caves. I think I've mentioned this before, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. But we simply do not live in the caves anymore. Now, you're saying men treat their dogs and their cars like they are their baby. But they do not want to treat you like that. Their dog and their car doesn't talk back. Men cannot handle a woman that talks back. Men cannot handle a woman with a brain. They just can't. I can tell you why, and I'm not saying this to flatter you. Women are much more intelligent than men, in the majority of cases. So, if you have a brain, how is a man going to handle this? If you have an opinion, if you have an idea, you see, they want a little puppy. They don't want a woman with a brain. So I understand your question very well, but I'm afraid the bigger picture is showing us that relationships were unnecessary evil in order for the species to survive. The species has now more than survived. So it's difficult for us to do this now, to play that role. So you are going to have to find more of you, become totally independent. We don't mean financially independent, that's easy. Independent meaning not needing another person to feel good. We're not talking sex, that's easy too, and you can easily find sex. But all this fulfillment, you're going to have to fulfill yourself and not expect this from another person. Not that it was wrong, but we're going beyond survival. Marriage or long-term relationships were created for survival. They were necessary. Now that we're going beyond survival, they're not necessary anymore. There's another thing too. We used to live till 40, 50, at the most, if we were lucky, 60. Now, everybody's going to be over 80 and 100. And as we go into the fifth dimension, we also go into immortality. So now there's no need for us to have children. There is no need for us to have children for the survival of the species, like there was many years ago. You see, our race is changing. Humanity is changing. Our bodies are changing. Our needs and wants are changing. And the transition, as we have said many times, is not always smooth. So yes, there will be a lot of single people in the fifth dimension, something like 99.9999%. Not lonely though. See, we have associated being single with being lonely, or being single with being unwanted. This is not the case. This is words our parents and grandparents used to use to force us to get married. I have a friend that I stay with in London a lot, and she was telling me that her mother, Brazilian, keeps telling her, this friend is still single. Her mother keeps telling her that if you're young, you will choose your husband. As you get older, you will be chosen by your husband. I'm like, yes, that makes so much sense. Sure, why don't you get married now at the tender age of 26 so you won't be chosen later? So these are stupid phrases that stupid people use. There will never be a shortage of stupid people as long as we are in the third dimension. But this doesn't mean we have to run our lives and we have to live our lives according to some stupid sayings. So there is another way I can say it, but you see, it sounds misogynistic, and I avoid it, but I'm going to say it now. I would not go around, if I were you, saying, look, men like their dogs and they like their cars, why do they not like me? Because that's not very flattering to you. I mean, imagine a man choosing his dog and his business and his car over you. That is when you say, hang on a minute, something else is going on here. What is it? And you look at the bigger picture, you look at anthropology, you look at evolution, you look at why did we ever start getting married? Why was being monogamous, why were we forced to stay monogamous? So you ask those questions when the fairy tale doesn't work. And that's how little by little you see the bigger picture, you understand, and then you say, okay, this is the game, so let me see how I can play it or what I can get from it. Because all a man wants from you, baby, is sex. That's all. The kind of man that you would like to keep, I mean. As we said, there are plenty of losers out there that are looking for a mother. But you don't want one of those. Why on earth would you want one of those? But the kind of man that you would like to attract and keep, of course, only wants sex from you. Doesn't want anything else. I'm going to mention something else that doesn't have much to do with your question. How do I put this now? Okay, I'm going to say it with words that might not make too much sense. Mother Earth is giving us so many opportunities to intermarry or have children with people of other nationalities and other races. Because we are very close, or we are entering a period where we are meant to become Earthlings and not European, African American, Asian, South American, but Earthlings. In about 3 or 4 or 5 generations, we will all look the same. So if you really want children, because I know which country you sent this message from, I don't want to mention the country, it doesn't matter. Look for a foreign guy instead of a guy from your own nationality. Again, this had nothing to do with your... You know what? I'm going to say a story that is totally crazy, but it's coming to me. I can see it clearly, so I have to say it. In the 1950s, aliens went to the British government and they showed them the future. And they said to them, you have been isolated, racially speaking, for so long that in about 5 generations, all of you will be having sick children. And your race, your nationality, whatever you want to call it, will die out. You need to strengthen your DNA. And they were told how to do this as well. To let in a certain number of people from other countries every year. And they were also told that the first and second generation is not going to mix very much. The third generation will mix a lot. The fourth will mix even more. And by the 5th generation, where you would normally be having sick children, the races will be so mixed that your nationality will survive. So, we don't know what cruel game is being played. Because in many countries, they are forced to marry people from other countries. Forced meaning because back home there aren't enough men or there aren't enough women. Or the men that are there are not desirable or are not interested in being a father. You see, there's many things going on in the world now during the transition period. We will become one race, Earthlings. So, if you really want children, I would say find someone from another race so we can strengthen our DNA. And actually, mixed race people are simply more beautiful in the majority of cases. So also, so we can beautify our race. I know this had nothing to do with your question, but I brought it up because there are many reasons why the old ways are not working anymore. Of course, as we said before, in the case of marriage, the old ways weren't working anyway. This is why we had forced marriages. And this is why our parents did it for us. I remember I was 19. This was back in the 70s, of course. I was 19 when my father got me engaged with someone. Because he knew that if he doesn't do this, I would never do it myself. And he was right. I never have. So yes, I do understand you. I don't want to say, what are you talking about? This is bullshit. It's not bullshit. I do understand you, that I know that men care about their dogs and their cars and their businesses. But there's way too much going on here, and we are trying to hold our sanity. The easiest way for us to keep our sanity these days is to find more of us. So I would say, forget about finding love from someone else. Start loving yourself and focus on your either growth or your career or whatever else it is you really like. Focus on that. Don't waste another single minute on finding someone to love you. I don't know if I said this on this site. When a man says to a woman, I love you, what he really means is, I want sex. And when he says, I love you very much, what he's really saying is, I want sex now. That's all it is. So yes, I'm going to get a few angry emails for this one as well. But you know what? I'm used to them now. It's okay. As I've said before, anger is good. Because I remember years ago I had a few clients that were depressed, but really, really depressed. And their higher self would say to me, make them angry. Because that is one step above depression regarding energy, regarding vibration. So at least you can get them out of the depression by making them angry. Again, this has nothing to do with the question here, but yes, anger is good. I think I'll leave it at this because it's becoming very long and I don't want people to get bored.